So this is a 2013 Toyota Highlander with multiple electrical issues. It has several different electrical faults on it. And one of the major faults is there's a fuse that keep popping up. Once a new fuse is installed, the fuse popped immediately, no matter the amperage, either 15, 10, or 30 amps, the fuse just blew immediately. So that means there is a short to ground somewhere along the line for this particular fuse. So this is the location of the fuse. You can see there's an empty spot there. So what I would have to do is to look for where the short to ground is. Once we can disconnect the short to ground, the vehicle will be fine. So, firstly, I will start by doing a visual inspection on the fuse box at the engine bay, and everything seems to look normal. So, what I will do now is I will look for what is causing the short on that fuse line inside. So, I'm connected to power on the battery on one side. So now you can see this test light is lighting up because it's finding a ground through this fuse hole, and it's not supposed to find the ground through the output. So this, the other side there's no ground, but this side there's ground. That's why the light turns on. So once the ground is removed, that light won't turn on again, and we will be able to install a fuse in that spot. So now what I'm doing now is I'm going to check wiring diagram for that particular fuse that is popping up, the one where we have a short to ground. So that will just serve as a guideline. So this is the wiring diagram for that fuse. As you can see, gauge 1 fuse, 10 amps. It's controlling the navigation system, the transmission system, the cruise control system, the defrogger system, the starts and charging system, the exterior light and anti-lock brake system. So those are the system that that fuse is controlling. So that means our shot will be from either one of these devices it's controlling, or from the wiring. So now all I just have to do is wire tracing or disconnecting each of these modules one after the other to see if the short to ground goes away. So the first thing I'm going to do is to set up the test light. So I'm connected to power on the battery for the test light. So the other side of the test light is connected to the fuse which has the short on it, the particular spot for the short. So that's why this test light is coming on. Normally this test light is not supposed to be on. It's on because there's a short to ground. So the moment I find the short and disconnect it, this light will go off, and I will know that okay, yes, the system is fine now. I can now install a fuse. So the first thing on the list is the transmission control, and it's actually the park and neutral switch that the fuse is feeding power. So I will have to disconnect the park and neutral switch for the transmission and see if that short goes away. So the park and neutral switch is on the body of the transmission itself. So I'm trying to disconnect it here. It's very stuck. So I have to just look for a way and disconnect it without breaking the connector. Now I've disconnected the connector. There's also another connector, although that one is for the solenoid controls inside the transmission. I just want to disconnect the two of them to be sure that the transmission is completely disconnected from the car electrical system. So I will go inside and confirm if the light goes away or it's still remaining on. Because if it's still remaining on, that means our search still continues. So the light is actually still on. And the next thing I will have to do is the navigation system. So I will disconnect the navigation system and see if the light goes off. So I've disconnected the navigation system and the light is still on. I'm trying to maintain a good contact of the pin where the short is because the light is shaking. So the light is still on. So my search still continues. So I came back to the wiring diagram to see if I will see any junction connector. And I can see this junction connector B46 behind the right side of the dashboard. So I'll go to the right side of the dashboard and try to locate it. So I'm at the right side and I can see some bunch of connectors here. Although the wiring diagram is not giving me the particular connector specifically. So what I will have to do is to disconnect these connectors one after the other and actually see the particular one I will disconnect, that light is going to go off. So I've disconnected one and the light is still on. I don't know if you can see the light clearly. The light is actually still on. So I will disconnect another one. There's another one down here. Okay, this is another one. Let me disconnect this with a white cover. The light is still on. I can see the light from here. Let me disconnect another one. There's one beneath here. Okay. Yeah, I can disconnect this now. And it's still on. So let me just connect this back and look for another one to disconnect. I think there's still one more at this side. Okay, I disconnect this. The light is still on. There's still one at the top corner. Yes, this. So let me try and disconnect this. I think this is the last one. Wow, and the light goes off. So that means that particular fuse output where the short is connected to this connector. So let me connect it back. So I've connected it back, and you can see the light comes on. So I think this is the B46 connector. So I'll have to trace it from here. So I've been doing some wiring tracing, and I know that the wire and I noticed that the wiring diagram colors are not relating to the colors I'm finding here. So I might have to do this my wire tracing manually because the wiring diagram is not really helping. So I see the wire comes in through this bunch and goes out to the engine bay. So I have to go and check from the engine bay where that bunch of wire comes out from because I am tracing this manually now. The wiring diagram is not giving me the exact colors. The colors are not in sync. So the wire comes out through this bunch of wire that's from the interior of the vehicle to this engine bay through this bunch of wire. The one down here, that black piece down here. So I will see if I can locate the particular wire inside this bunch and start continue my tracing from there. Yeah, I traced the wire to this particular bunch here, but I can't find that color of wire here. So I noticed the wire also run under this panel to the other side of the vehicle, to the left side of the vehicle. And lo and behold, I found something in this bunch of wire. This wire is melted. If you look at this tape, where this tape look broken, it's not actually broken. It has melted. Like there's fire happening inside of this place, or this wire gets very very hot at some point. So I'm trying to figure out what actually make this wire burn out like this. Like this bunch of wire I'm picking up here, the one with this black tape, they are stuck. I can't even separate them. This wire are melted together. I can't even separate them. I think at the point I'm trying to separate them and the wire is actually breaking. Some are coming out loose, some are not so stuck together, but some are, if I try to separate them, the wire breaks. This is the particular wire I was even looking for, this blue wire. So this is where the short actually happened. So let me separate the ones that are not stuck from the ones that are stuck together to see if I can separate them, and our short to ground will be gone. Because what could have caused this wire to melt together? The exhaust is not close to this panel, so I'm not sure of what exactly caused this fault here. So I'm trying to open the wire even more to see if I'll find any other short, because I can see some wires sticking together even while moving down. So let me just try and open this bunch of wire further to see if I'll find any other wire that is shorted together. You can see this so short that even to separate them is hard. Look at, let me try and separate it. You see the wire has broken. The wire is breaking. Once I try to separate it, the insulation just breaks off. So this wire is very, very, very stuck together. This type of shorts will affect several different systems, and you will be trying to fix each and every system individually, not knowing that all the problem is actually coming from this wire shorted together. They have melted every one of them here. So I'll just try and expand the bunch even more and see if I'll find any other thing, because if I didn't find any, that means this is where the short is alone. So I had to open the wire much further, and I found so many short. Look at this one I'm holding now. This bunch of wire are stuck together. They are very, very strong. They have melted together. This bunch I'm trying to hold now, these ones I'm holding, all of them are stuck together. Even at this other right end, I can see another wire that are melted together. This bunch of wire also are melted. So this wire has to be replaced completely because if I'm not exaggerating, over 30 different wires are melted together here. And it's not just at a point, it's at several different points. Look at this one I'm also holding here. This is another one I find also caked together. So I think I've even opened the fuse box up at the point when I was trying to look for where the short is. I had to separate all the fuse box and try to see if the short was coming from there, but no, it was coming from that bunch of wires. So the good thing about this fault is we find the fault, but the bad thing is we couldn't find the bunch of wire. So we had to resort in fixing this wire one after the other. This is going to take a very long time to fix each and every one of them because I have to separate them one after the other. I later found out that it was over 40 different wires that were melted together. So I had to separate them one after the other and use a black tape to insulate them. It was not an easy job. And this was all because we couldn't find the wire anywhere. The one we got was for a blade key vehicle, but this car is a keyless start, which means push button. So the wiring is different. So we couldn't get the wire harness for a keyless version of this vehicle. So we resort to fixing the wire one after the other. So this takes about 2 to 3 hours to actually fix all of those wires together back. So this is after several hours of fixing the wires. You can see I had to pack them together very neatly so that no one will even notice that this kind of big work has been done here. So at least it was done well and perfectly. So this car should work, as in this repair should work for a very long time without issues. So yeah, the engine is running and every fault on the vehicle disappeared after this repair. So I will just make sure I pack this together that it won't be seen outside.